it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guest and I each pick a film related in some shape or form, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two films to go check out. And joining me, like every month, is my buddy Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And we're going to be doing a double dose of some indie films here starring Elizabeth Olsen. So we have 2012's Liberal Arts and 2013's Very Good Girls. So let's start with Liberal Arts here. When 30 something Jesse returns to his alma mater for a professor's retirement party, he falls for Zibby, a college student, and is faced with a powerful attraction that springs up between them. And this film is written, directed, and starring Josh Radnor. So, Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. And you have Elizabeth Olsen. We have Zac Efron popping up here, Richard Jenkins, Allison Janney, John Magaro. But Jeff, what were your general thoughts on liberal arts?
So this is like my second or third time watching it for this podcast. And I kind of forgot how it like what happened in this movie each time. I have
Mhm.
there's only a few movies that do that for me. Like this is one of them where I just kind of like I won't see it in a year and I'll just be like, what happened at the end of that movie? I completely forget. And then I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's also kind of forgettable. Um, but no, I like this movie. It's a little interesting of a choice for me to pick. I think I picked this movie and you picked Very Good Girls.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really remember why I picked it, but I just think it was one of those I haven't seen it in a while. I wanted to remember what it was or what happened, and that was it. But I like it. It's just not one of my favorite movies on a third you're on a second or third time rewatching it. It's got some interesting ideas, but we can kind of dive into that after your thoughts.
Yeah. This is my first time watching this. And it definitely has that like academia kind of indie film kind
Mhm.
of perspective. And of course it's about like English people really like diving into like literature. And Jesse's a Jesse's an interesting protagonist because it's like he's feeling all this guilt about being a 30 something year old falling for this college girl who has like most indie movie name ever, Zibby. Um
Mhm.
as with played by Elizabeth Olsen. And they hit it off. They're having this very like this is like if somebody were to ask me what's a hipster movie, this definitely has all of the beats that you want. They're pen pals with handwritten letters. They talk literature. Jesse's a bit judgmental in terms of his thoughts, and they get in this whole entire thing about cheesy vampire romance novels. And it's interesting because there's such a collection of different characters in this and who he runs into. And IMDb labels this as a coming of age story, which is interesting. And like it's definitely in a very specific time for this man transitioning in his life. And I really like the cast. I think the cast brings a lot to the table, especially like Richard Jenkins is his former teacher. Allison Janney's another one of his former teachers. That goes into some interesting places. But
Mhm.
I feel like tonally it's a little bit shaky too, because like it unexpectedly gets dark at a
Yeah.
couple moments, especially towards the end with one particular character that he kind of becomes a bit of a mentor for, which John Magaro, so young in this movie.
I know. I keep
Um,
forget. I always forget he's in this because then I'll go and I'll watch him in things like past lives, and I'm like, oh my god, like what a strange trip you've taken from here to there.
mhm. And then just Zac Efron as a random kid who keeps popping up.
if I could get rid of one thing in this movie that makes absolutely no sense, it's that character. I just don't understand why this character was even a thought for this movie because he doesn't add anything to it. He really like he's only in maybe I don't know 3 scenes total.
Mhm.
Like, and he doesn't add anything to Josh Radnor's character's like arc. Like he doesn't really give him a lot of like great advice. Like he tries to give him like hippy dippy advice.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really like do anything. It doesn't change Jesse in any way. So I'm just like, I don't really know why that character's even here. I get why he's there, like in his first appearance, because they go to that
Mhm.
party together. That's where he sees Zibby again and everything. But like after that, I don't even know why he's even in the movie.
It kind of feels like that character's representing some kind of mechanism to loosen Jesse up, I guess. But like, do you need to add a whole entire side character and to
Hmm.
return to multiple times to be able to do that for him? Because I feel like that's basically the extent of what that character functions as here.
Yeah.
And I feel like along the way, like I think his main like climactic interaction with Allison Janney does more to like kind of open his eyes
Yeah.
to his kind of like how he's being than those interactions with Zac Efron. Like Zac
Hmm.
Efron's silly and fun. You could definitely tell he's having a good time in this, but like that's one thing. It's like there's a bit of scattered threads throughout here and because at the heart of it this is a romance and there it's very interesting like how quickly Jesse gets involved with other women along the way here. I feel like the
Hmm.
Allison Janney through line is an important thing for him to go on, and you have like Elizabeth Razor's character who like swoops right in. She is very charming. I do enjoy her personality and her presence in this. But I feel like the main impact of this story is the evolution of his dynamic with Zibby throughout the film. And I thought Elizabeth Olsen was fantastic in this, especially because
Yeah.
like how old was she? You're like 23 years old making this movie.
I keep forgetting how young she is.
Mhm.
To me, she seems so much older than that.
Well, and I think that really works for her character too, because she has this mature presence in this movie. And I really liked Zibby as a character.
Hmm.
And like I got really frustrated with Jesse because like he was doing that like performative like oh but like I would feel so guilty with doing something with you that you a consenting adult want to do and it's just like
Yeah.
dude like come on now and
Hmm.
obviously there's an age difference and he's feeling very insecure about that and feeling guilty about it and it's like at the end of the day there's no power dynamic. This isn't like this is his school where he's a professor here and she's like in one of his classes. It's a matter of him trying to process his own insecurities about the situation. And I do think that the film has some interesting ideas. Um, you see different points in a journey here because you also see like at the end of the road with Richard Jenkins' character who just doesn't know when to quit um in terms of like the whole entire crux of the story is like Jesse's there for a retirement party and then he's just like but what if I don't want to retire and I do really enjoy Richard Jenkins presence in the film
Hmm.
too but I did not know that Josh Radnor directed anything to be honest so that was an interesting
Yeah.
surprise here for sure.
I've seen both of his movies that he's directed. I always forget that this one came after Happy Thank You More Please. I think this is the better of the two, but there's something about this movie that just I know what Ratner's trying to do is he's trying to come across with this movie as being a little bit more introspective, a little bit more
Mm.
intelligent. But to me, there's parts of this movie that just feel like pretentious.
Yes.
Like it equates to like all like I went to film school, and it just equates to all of the pretentiousness that I used to experience with other people like that I went to film school with, and seeing how like pretentious they were trying to make their films, and how deep the concepts were. But I'm like, it doesn't have to be like he's trying to make it deeper than it really needs to be. And there's parts of this film that just kind of go like, okay, you didn't need to go that far with it.
I think one of the moments where I started to really roll my eyes a little bit in terms of just how uh pretentious and how self-absorbent this film was getting a bit was the whole pen pal montage sequence, because I'm like, the way they're talking and like complimenting each other on the fact that they're writing like handwritten notes to each other, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
come on now. I think the saving grace for me was that Jesse does go through some evolution here and realize, like, dude, like, chill,
Yeah.
basically, and just appreciate life. And I think Anna, Razor's character, when she kind of comes into the situation, kind of represents that for him. Like, obviously, I think his actions and where he is in his life made it so that, like, him and Zibby weren't going to work out in a meaningful
Yeah.
way. And he gets himself a second chance, which also, like, good for you, Jesse, just having another attractive, charming woman waiting in the wings, uh, for to swoop right in there. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, in general, I was entertained by this. I thought it had some interesting ideas. It does lean a little too heavily into some of that. There's a little bit of self-importance, I feel like, in some of the elements to the film, but overall, I think Radner did a really fine job of making a nice, engaging,
Yeah.
indie college setting romance. So overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I enjoy it too. I'm sure I'm gonna watch it again because I'm gonna forget what happened. But I do enjoy watching this movie because it kind of takes me back mentally to that time that because that was like 2012 it came out. It was around the same time that I was in film school, and when I was getting out of film school when I saw it for the first time, and it just kind of takes me back to that time where I'm like, oh, you could make these cute little indie movies that have maybe some pretentious ideas, and it just kind of, I don't know, just nostalgia, I guess, kind of keeps coming back to it keeps me coming back to this movie.
I feel like the Noah Baumbachs of the world opened the door for a lot of these types of films to
Yeah.
really come about and stuff like that. And it's interesting because both of these films we're going to talk about are on AMC Plus. Um, I'm guessing under that like IFC kind of
Hmm.
like banner in terms of the indie films. But let's transition into Very Good Girls, which I'll drop at the beginning. I definitely did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed
I did
Liberal
not
Arts,
either.
though. But we have two New York City girls make a pact to lose their virginity during their first summer out of high school. When they both fall for the same street artist, the friends find their connection tested for the first time. And this film is written and directed by Naomi Boner and starring Dakota Fanning and Elizabeth Olsen as the two friends. And then one of the weirdest things for me was seeing Boyd Holbrook
Hmm.
this young really messed with me. And I'm just like, dude has the vibe that he came out of the womb at like 35 at least. And then you have the likes of like Ellen Barkin and Clark Gregg and Demi Moore, Richard Dreyfuss, even
Hmm.
a young Kiernan Shipka, which I didn't expect. That's probably one of the most fun things watching indie films from like this era, is just like how many familiar faces you're gonna see popping up in them.
Yeah.
But Jeff, what are your general thoughts on Very Good Girls?
I just didn't like it. I mean, I always go into these movies, I want to like them, but I was just like, it's not a it's not a poorly made film. It's just it didn't connect with me in any way. I just I don't find Dakota Fanning very likable. I
Mm-mm.
find Elizabeth Olsen likable enough. But I also don't find Boyd Holbrook likable. I mean, Ellen Barkin playing her mom, like she's not really supposed to be likable, but I just didn't like her at
It
all.
was insufferable.
Um,
On.
there's really, there's the only people that I actually kind of enjoyed in this film were like Elizabeth Olsen and her parents
Yeah.
because they were the more like fun and light and present in the film. Whereas like, and then when you go back to like Dakota Fanning's character's parents, like like the whole family is just dour and sad and just it's just what a bummer.
Well,
And
and
even going to like the Peter Sarsgaard character, he just gave off a super creepy vibe. Like he's probably
that's
not.
literally
He
his
probably
character.
and he probably wasn't actually like creepy, but he was just
Mhm.
giving off a creepy vibe. I don't know.
I think that was his whole entire point in the movie. Peter
Hmm.
Sarsgaard, be creepy. That's about it. And that's what
Yeah,
I struggled with this movie is that nobody had any, like, very few characters in this movie had any real depth.
yeah,
Like, Lily and her whole entire family are just a bunch of stereotypes that just feel either insufferable or unlikable. And the film does not do a very good job of painting, like, you still need to be able to engage with these characters. They just feel arm's length the whole entire time. You can have flawed
hmm
characters and still have them, we can connect with them because all humans are flawed, but like
yeah,
they just feel so clunky and poorly realized in the film. And like Dakota Fanning is a very talented actor. It's just she at the end of the day really didn't have much to work with. It was a very
yeah,
blank slate of a character. And speaking of a blank slate of a character, Boyd Holbrook's character is like a nothing character, I feel like. And it's just like, sure, man, you're attractive and brooding, but like,
Yeah.
what else is there to you?
That's really yeah. Like apart from the fact that he's a like photographer, there's really nothing more to that character at all.
Mm-mm. And like, that's a shallow, like, this film feels surprisingly shallow for a
Yeah,
lot of things that it's trying to tackle. And I almost want to say, like, this film would have been more interesting from Jerry's perspective because Elizabeth Olsen has, which is so very interesting because this is this came out the year after liberal arts, but she feels so much younger in this movie, and I think that's a sentiment, a testament to just how talented of a performer Elizabeth Olsen is. She really
hmm
plays this character really well. And Demi Moore is like criminally underutilized in this movie because she doesn't get a whole lot to do.
honestly, I'm not even sure why Demi Moore and Richard Dreyfuss were even in this movie. They could have gotten two completely different people to play these roles, but I guess they were hurting for roles or something back then. Maybe it was a slow
I'm
year for them. I don't know, but I'm like, why on earth are these two people in these roles? They're barely in it.
Well, that's the thing. I would assume that that's probably the case because, like, Demi Moore, luckily now has this resurgence because of the substance. But like,
Yeah,
not gonna lie, between Charlie's Angels and the substance, I don't think there's a ton that Demi Moore was doing that was very high profile, and that's almost
no,
like 20 years, unfortunately. And at this point, I think Richard Dreyfuss was really on the decline in terms of his like him working with people because he's
yeah,
also apparently not exactly the easiest to work with either. And like I can see him in this because at least he gets a little bit more of a spotlight. And
yeah. It's a little bit more emotional for his journey, I guess.
mhm, but like Demi Moore is just like there.
Yeah.
And they could have easily just been two character actors that,
Hmm.
those kinds of actors that are like, oh, I know them from all kinds of things. And, they're fun for the little bit that you dash them in there. But like their whole family had an interesting vibe to it. and engaging. Like we only spent a very little bit amount of time, but I'm so much more interested in their dynamics, their family. And I just I don't know. I didn't fully connect with the friendship either. It's just like I could see why like Dakota Fanning's character would want to be friend like I could see why Lily would want to be friends with Jerry. I don't really see why Jerry wants to be friends with Lily. And it could just
Yeah.
be like this is a friendship of like we've just been friends for so long. And they could have, done something with that, except they just kind of like cleanly patch this all up because they have a fun, cute moment at the end.
Hmm.
And it's just like, okay, that wrapped up nice and clean. Because, like, to be honest, like, they both lied to each other and kept things from each other in a pretty serious way in this movie. And it's just like, you
It
could
was
have
mostly
done more with
it's
this.
mostly just the Dakota Fanning character. I mean, the Elizabeth Olsen character was pretty upfront about a lot, except for at the
Sure.
very end.
Yeah. So,
So I
like,
mean,
they
like
had that.
it's really just like the Lily character that like was kind of like the worst character in the movie, I guess, because she's
Well, and
lying to her
that's
friend
hard
the
because
whole
she's
time
our
about dating this guy.
protagonist.
Yeah.
We're supposed to like her. And it's just like, I don't. I really don't. And I guess reframing it, Lily keeps everything from Jerry.
Hmm.
And then in the climax of the movie, Jerry lies once.
But
And
really
that's
about
like,
something that's like in comparison not a big deal.
well, and it shouldn't have been a big deal
Hmm.
in the context for Jerry because Lily didn't tell her that she was dating Boyd Holbrook this whole entire time. It's just like she's the one keeping that from because like if your friend lied to you about sleeping with somebody that you had no connection with, at the end of the day, how big of a deal is that? But the thing is,
Hmm.
Lily does have a connection with this character, but she kept that from her best friend. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, who's in the wrong here? And it's Lily. This honestly, by the end, this movie was just really frustrating. It's a frustrating experience seeing how this all comes together and like it feels pretty hollow with a lot of the things that it's trying to say and navigate through.
Hmm.
So yeah, at the end, I was simply not a fan of this movie.
Yeah, I would agree with. I'm not sad that I watched it because I loved it. I just like watching new things, but
Mhm.
I'm not going to be coming back to this movie.
Now, I cannot conceive a reason why I would come back to this particular movie at some point, but like I did appreciate getting to see a young Elizabeth Olsen again, along with liberal arts, and seeing like, damn, she really has it.
Hmm.
And you see it in because like I've mostly only known her through the Marvel movies that she's been
Yeah.
in, and she's killed it
Hmm.
as Wanda, and whether it was in WandaVision or Multiverse of Madness, like she's the best part
Yeah.
of those films. And you can see her, and I'm glad to see that she's doing a lot of other stuff at this point. But this was like a nice kind of okay, wow, she was this ridiculously talented when she was like in her early 20s. And good for her. And now I'm going to look forward to watching her in more things moving forward, even more.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
but yeah, so there's our double dose of Elizabeth Olsen films with liberal arts and very good girls. So, would recommend one of them. But that's a wrap for our episode. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and always talking movies.
Of course, anytime.
And our next episode is going to be back at the beginning of the month again with my wife, who just went on a big Twin Peaks uh binge. So now she wants to watch Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me. And I paired it with Lost Highway. So got a double dose of some David Lynch here. And then next month, Jeff and I are going to do a double dose of Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu with his Best Director winning films, the two films that he won his Oscars for Birdman and The Revenant. So interesting things to look forward to. But thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite Elizabeth Olsen performance? Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. to the point where I can't keep up with all these shows now, trying to listen every week. But there's so many different shows for all different types of people looking for different kinds of interests. And if you're interested in starting a podcast or being a guest on any of ours, make sure to check out our website and reach out. And if you like our logo, check out HiFlyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your here on the Wasteland Retrospective on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.